Hi guys, welcome to the channel where you join me today, and we're going to take a look through what we need to do to rebuild this Yamaha R1. So we've now got the bike in the workshop. What we're going to do next is we're going to get it up in the air and we're going to start tearing it down. So the first thing I'm going to start with is by undoing the bottom radiator hoses and draining out all of the coolant. And what we can do while we're here, as we're going to be taking the radiator out, we can start taking off some of the electrical connections and just removing some of this wiring out of the way. So most of these have just got a plastic style clip that holds them in place. So I'm just around the other side of the bike now, and I'm just going to be doing the same here, so taking off some of the radiator hoses and the cooling hoses and some of the electrical connections so we can get the rad out. So some of the reusable ties that they've got for the wiring loom here, I'm just unplugging or unclipping and then just putting them back roughly where they were on the wiring loom, so when I go to reinstall it, I know where all those clips go. I've just picked up the camera just so I can show you what I've been doing on this side. So we've taken off the top hose up here, and we've also taken off the bottom hose here. We've unplugged some more of the wiring, and as we mentioned earlier in the intro, we can look at repairing some of this wiring at a later date. We've taken off some of the wiring up here, but I just wanted to show you some of the reasons that I decided to take this bike to bits. Is, as you can see here, we've got ourselves a Allen key bolt up here, which holds the top of the radiator, and then if we go around the other side here, you can see we've got a 10mm head one. And what I didn't capture on a previous video was with this bike that there were quite a lot of bolts and bits and pieces missing when I took the fairing off. So the fairing's actually gone away to be painted, so we'll capture that at a later date in another video. We can do a nice reveal of those. But yeah, the reason for stripping it down is to just really check the bike over, make sure that we're happy that everything's safe, everything's working, everything's within spec, and then as we put it all back together, we can put it all back together with some fresh grease and bits and pieces. So I've loosened off the bottom bolt that holds the radiator in place. I'm just now releasing the top two. We'll take the radiator out. And what I often do as well is just leave the bolts in place in the components, or either screw them back into where they came from. So when you go back to reassembling things, it just makes it a lot easier to find the stuff that you're looking for, the bolts that you're looking for. So I'm just going to pop that down there out the way. Then we can start having a look at getting the exhaust manifold off and out of the way. And what I'm going to try and do is clean the head of that nut up and the thread as best I can. A little bit awkward to get in there. We'll just see if we can put a bit of heat on it just to warm it up. What we're looking to do is we're just looking to heat the nut so that it expands and hopefully releases. Unfortunately, we're out of luck. So that's broken the stud out there. And as you can see, where it's corroded so badly here, there's actually no thread left on it. That's not a problem, we can get that out. Once we've got the engine out, we can get that stud out, no problem. And then replace that. Baby, you give me ice and fire. So what we have got down here as well is we've got some cabling for the exhaust flap inside the exhaust system here. So we're going to see if we can undo those and take those off, but they look just as corroded as the manifold studs. So I think what we'll do at the moment is we'll take off the other side of the cabling, and then it will just be easier for us to get those out once the exhaust system is off the bike, because they're just as rusty and corroded as the manifold studs. So now that we've got that undone, we've got a securing bolt underneath that just holds the exhaust underneath the bike that we're just going to take off now. And then we've got another one up behind the rear subframe here, which just holds the pipes as they come up through. So this one here is not even done up. So as you can see here, what I've done is I've just lowered down the exhaust manifold. I've undone this clamp up here, which holds the exhaust up to the back of the subframe, and then I've undone this clamp here, which clamps onto the back part of the exhaust. Just here, and then giving it all a wiggle and separated it all. As you can see, it all wants a really good clean, but we can do that. And again, all of these components can have a really good deep clean before they go back on the bike. So now the exhaust is out of the way, I'm just going to look at draining the oil. The oil's looking okay. It's a bit dark, but there's no filings or anything like that in this. Same again for the sump bung, just checking the end of the sump bung. Doesn't seem to be any signs of any material on the end of that, which is good. Again, when I got this bike, I don't really know too much about the service history. It hasn't had a service for what looks like a number of years according to the paperwork, so it's just another reason for taking it apart and just giving it a real good once over. So while I'm waiting for the oil to drain out, I will just go through and start taking some other parts off the bike. So I'm just removing these breather hoses that we've got here out of the way of this cover. And then by the looks of it, that's held on with some 5mm Allen key heads. Yeah, looking at the oil now, it is really, really clean. just going to remove part of the gear selector rod as well, which is in the way of getting the chain front sprocket cover off. From the other side as well, just so that we can move it out of the way. I've just pulled that right through, so again I can pop the bolt in now. Just start unclipping some more of this wiring around this side. Grab the camera here. We can take a look, because as you can see we've got some more wiring that we need to clean up. Same for in here. So there's just a number of ways these clips come undone. Some of them, like this one here, you push in this little tab and you can pull them away. Some of them, like this one, you pull the outer or the female part of the connector over this little hook here, and then others like that one, again you just push in the little tab and that moves that away. So what I will do as well is I'll just give you an idea of what we've been doing down here. So we've taken the gear selector rod off that comes from here, runs through the frame here, and then it's just linked to the gearbox shaft here for the selector. So we've taken this bolt out here, there's one tucked right up in here, and then another one underneath on here, and that just allows us to pull that plastic cover out of the way and access the front sprocket. So now that most of the oil's drained out, what I'll do is I'll just pop the sun bung back in. I'm not going to do it up tight because I want to replace the washer and give it a clean as well, because it looks as if somebody's put some silicone on the plug itself. And I'll leave the oil filter on for the moment as well, because we can change that. We're going to need to clean all the front of the engine because there's quite a lot of sort of road dirt there that we need to remove. So we can tuck this wiring out of the way. Doing now is I'm just unplugging some more of the electrical connectors. So I'm just unplugging the coils which sit on top of your spark plug and on the top of the cylinder head there. And we've got another little plastic connector. It just holds the wiring. So again, we've got this type of connector here, and what they do is they just ratchet together, and then to pull them apart you just flick the two tabs, he says, like that, and it just opens the connector. So we will just pop that back round that wiring because that came from there. Again, some of these plugs won't have been off in years, so they are a bit difficult to get off sometimes. They can be quite brittle as well. There we go. Now what we'll do is we'll come back down and start taking some of the airbox and bits and pieces off up here, maybe some more of the wiring, and have a look in there. What I do need to do as well is I'm going to take off these rear the pillion foot pegs, because what I want to do is get all of these painted because they're quite corroded. So if I'm doing the rest of it, I want to do those as well. And now we're going to look at taking some of the stuff off on the top here. So we're just going to undo the airbox, see what the air filter looks like. It's quite convenient that the airbox is moulded like that. It gives me some little bits to pop the screws for a minute. And there we go. So we've got the air filter assembly there. I mean, that doesn't look too bad. You can see some dirt in there. It will be replaced anyway, but you can see there's a nice long trail of dirt lurking in the bottom of the airbox there. And you can just see the top of the throttle bodies along here. As well here that we just need to disconnect. And then what feels like one here as well. Just need to be really mindful of as well is that we don't get any dirt or debris down into here. Because that looks like, and I'm not quite sure how it's got there, it looks like a staple. Do is just put some tape, stop anything falling into the so next we'll just look at taking off some more of the connectors. It's quite good to do as well as you go through the process, just taking photos of each stage that you're at, and then if you're ever unsure you can come back to it, look at the photographs and look at what you've may have misplaced or anything that needs to be rerouted and so on. So we've just got some hidden bolts up in the frame here which hold this plastic housing on and hold the ECU in place. So I'm going to see if I can take that out next. But I might struggle a little bit because we've got this throttle body piece here, but we'll see how we get on. grab some paper towel. I'm just going to pop those in there. So we've got the ECU, so it just comes out with a clip on the back here. So, and again, we'll pop that down out of the way, and we'll just pull this connector gently through the frame and tuck it out of the way. Take this breather pipe off. Just a couple more clips here. That's a bit awkward, that one there, to get a socket in, so I've used the ball end of the Allen key there. Just undo that. Give that a wiggle. Pull that off. If we just gently wiggle this through, what we will do is we'll just take the Jubilee clip off the other end, just so we don't scratch the frame or the casing. And there is the thermostat housing, which I couldn't see from the underside, but it actually, if you look there, just has a rubber bung that just secures it in place. So I'll still need to undo those to release those engine earths. Just take those off. Just pop that back in like that, so we don't lose that. And then let's start undoing some of this. We'll just put these reusable ones back on, but obviously not connected all together. I'm just going to undo the battery cradle here, which is where the tank also bolts onto, just so we can tuck this wiring loom a bit further back and get it right out of the way. Just going to put these bolts in ever so slightly, so then I can still pull it up and pull some of this wiring out of the way. Tiny little 8mm nut and bolt here for the starter. Coolant bottle off, just get that out of the way. Sometimes it's just a bit easier to take more of the bits off because it just gives you a bit more access when you're trying to get to some of the components, and it just makes the job a bit easier at times. Just take the crankcase breather off as well. So now that we've finished disconnecting everything up the top here, what we're going to do is we're going to lift the bike up, and then we're going to undo the remaining stuff on the underside of the bike and right underneath, and then hopefully we should be able to get the engine out. doing here is we're just going to use a car trolley jack to take the weight of the engine while I undo the remaining bolts that are holding the engine in. We can then lower it down using the jack and hopefully the engine will come out. And that's it, guys. We've now got the engine out of the bike, and on the next episode we're going to look at checking the valve clearances, giving everything a good clean, checking it all over and making sure it's all good before we put it back in the bike. We're also going to take the opportunity to give the frame a clean and all the other bits and pieces on the bike. We've got a few repairs to do. We may do a few modifications along the way. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.